Welcome back to another episode of Industry Champions. I'm Steve Strum. Industry Champions brought to you by Foodies Care and the Daily News Network. Today we have Elizabeth, Liz, Charron, and you are doing HR People Coach. And we were talking a little bit offset. You have an HR consulting company that is blending both living by a certain book, by the faith, not necessarily Bible thumping, but keeping it consistent within the workforce.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about your company, what you do, and how you're different.
So HR People Coach, I started it when I left the corporate world because, you know, HR is so important to organizations. And I know people, even in the lobby, people are like, oh, HR. I'm like, no, HR is where your people can get the best of your organization. We're there to help and to drive the business forward through the only asset you really have, which is your people.
It's the most expensive asset, but it also gives you the highest rate of return. For every dollar that I spend on my HR, my human resources, I get a 38-cent rate of return. Now, what they don't tell you is whether or not that 38 cents comes in 2026 or 2046. So, you know, minor detail that they left out. But, you know, it is. It's the human resources. So outside of this universe, I actually am a partner at a wealth management company, and we have 5 in Jacksonville, 15, 25, 30 employees, something like that. And I'm responsible for the folks that are up here in Northeast Florida. And, you know, it's everything from making sure they come to work on time, dealing with interpersonal issues. We're all getting a little bit older. COVID, we all need therapy. There's a lot of things that are out there that are always changing in the dynamic of the human population. And to have a resource that is human is kind of in the name of HR, not just going to the principal's office, so to speak. So what is it that you consult with? What are some of the things that you do?
So I mostly work, funny you said that, in the compliance arena, right?
My favorite.
I know, I know.
No, it is. I proactively work with compliance. They were in my office yesterday for good things.
Good things, because it is, if you look at it from the perspective of what it's supposed to do, it's just supposed to give everyone an even playing field. Right, so that's what we're talking about. I'm not talking about this person gets that or that person gets out of the company, or it's just about giving a basic minimum playing field for people to get in there and do the job that they want to do.
In a compliance-friendly environment.
In a compliance-friendly
environment. Got to make sure we put that in there. Well, you know, what a lot of people don't realize, right? So when you say compliance HR, that I think is the quintessential definition of the principal's office, but by most people's accounts. But, you know, I work in the financial services sector. A lot of regulations. They change every year. I mean, I was, you know, I was up late last night studying on some new stuff in the tax code that we don't even know how to do yet, but yet it's passed into law. So it's law, but we're like, well, how do we actually do that? And we'll get back to it later. And so when we talk about compliance, like in my organization, we actually have 2 compliance officers to make sure that what we're doing is both consistent with what's in the best interest of the client, right? Because it's ever changing, but then also from an HR perspective, making sure that the people that are working on our work group teams are doing things also consistent with what's in the best interest of the client, and an ever higher bar of confidentiality requirements.
Exactly.
You know, and we talk about all this stuff with AI, right?
Exactly.
Like, you know, AI is making websites. Well, what happens when AI cracks, you know, somebody, you know, hacks a website on AI and we have another data breach like Capital One?
Exactly.
And that's Capital One.
I know.
Right? That's a big company. Like, and again, nothing fault to their own. It was actually a problem with their server system, which was another company. But it doesn't matter because records got exposed. You hear about the stuff all the time.
All the time.
So HR compliance, not the principal's office.
No.
How you're using it as a competitive tool for your clients to do a better job. But then you get this little book that was written, I don't know, 2026 years ago, with about this guy who's hung on a cross and all this other stuff.
Exactly.
So how are you doing faith-based stuff in an HR world that has to kind of be Switzerland in that world? Like, how does that work?
So thank you for asking, because that's something, you know, as I started to step out of the corporate world, you know, as people were saying, you know, you were always so kind, you were always so fair, we always felt we were listened to. And they would say to me, what made you that way? How is it that you did your job that way. And it used to be kind of like a funny joke. I would say, well, there was this book written 2,000 years ago, and it's basically a roadmap, do unto others, walk humbly. You've got just a lot of stuff in there that can help guide you. You don't have to go out. And I don't think anybody knew how involved I was with my faith when I was working at HR, but I certainly demonstrated it. And that's where the idea from the book came. How did you demonstrate it without making people feel like, oh, you're, the Lord my God said, and, let's pray together. No, it's just simply a way of walking, because that's all Jesus did. He walked and he showed the people the way. So that was what kind of my thought was, not that I just wanted to put my ideas down on paper to say, here's how you can do that. And then there's some stories in there that show there are difficulties with doing that sometimes. You can't always get the result that you want, but you certainly have to try. And I think that's what resonates with people, right? And this is something, and we just talked about AI, and I was in the lobby and somebody said, AI is taking your job. And I said, no, it's not. Because AI will never be able to hold the hand of someone and say.
Or know that that's supposed to happen when you hold your hand out.
Exactly. It's never going to know that. And people are human beings. And they need that sense of empathy, that sense of trust. And no words on a paper can spit that out. I don't care if you put it into an AI Terminator character. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, there's a warmth and compassion that makes us children of God.
Well, there's this thing, AI is a great tool. It is,
Absolutely.
and I'm going to come back to the Bible thumping here. Don't worry, I'm going to come back on that one. But on the AI bit, right? It's a great tool. It's awesome. You put a lot of data in there.
Yep.
But the thing that is the challenge of what we find today, and maybe tomorrow as it gets better and better and better, is the AI looks for certain patterns, right? That looks for certain numerical patterns. It looks for certain data bits, which is fine, and that's accurate, right? But what it doesn't have on that human side, right, is, and I liken it to one of my very first jobs. My uncle ran a commercial forwarding company, and I was just out of college, and there's a couple gentlemen, Wes and Kenny Kemp specifically, down in South Florida, that I'm not sure they graduated from high school. They look at the studio, they take one look, and they can just walk right out and tell you exactly how much carpet you need. Now, I'm sitting there with my tape measure trying to figure it out, and it turned out that the measurements, their waste, whatever, was more efficient, more profitable, and they didn't even break out a tape measure. Well, you know what they did? They count the ceiling tiles. So every ceiling tile is 2 feet wide, and all you got to do is you count the ceiling tiles, length and width. And out they go. And I'm sitting there doing the stuff with it. So the AI can do the thing with tape measure all day long, but there's a difference between that knowledge and wisdom, right?
Exactly.
So back to your book as we take it away. So you did an HR book because, we live in America. You can be Christian, you can be Muslim, you can be Jewish, you could be atheist, you could be whatever, right? You can do whatever you want. That's the wonderful part about the Constitution. We're allowed to have what we have. We have religious freedom, right? It's kind of one of the things we were founded on. So you wrote this book that brings in the concepts of faith into an HR environment, but not necessarily fire and brimstone, not necessarily go tell it on the mountain, but you are writing it so if somebody who is not of a Christian faith could also appreciate that, and he or she would not feel alienated.
Exactly. The Bible, it's an interesting...
Kind of a neat idea.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, I'm an English literature major, right?
Well, that makes sense.
And so when you learn English literature, the number one source that you look at is the Bible.
It's the most sold book ever.
Most sold book ever, because there are things in there. So even if you don't have the same faith that I do, you can certainly appreciate it for the lessons that are in there. You can certainly appreciate this man who walked the earth and gave everything for us, everything that he had. And, his father said to him, this is what I need you to do, and he did it, right? He went through this ordeal, but to say, I believe in you. And we have a responsibility to that in our world. We have to stand up and say, especially if you're a Christian, we need to stand up and say, this is who we're supposed to be, because this is what was done for us. There is, to me, there is a reciprocal point.
So my name's Stephen. I'm named after St. Stephen, so I totally understand that, the first martyr. But I do have my own holidays, the day after Christmas. It's great. So as we take it away, so you wrote a book, HR Without the Bible Thump. You are helping people understand performance work things as we're entering into this AI technology. And your HR compliance is not necessarily the Department of knowing the bad guy. It's how to give you tools and resources in order to be able to be ahead of that and serve your customers and your clients and your employees before you have to go to the principal's office.
Exactly.
And I appreciate you taking some time today, and you're great, but you're awesome and you're here. These people here are the reason that we're here. Without them, we don't have a show. Guys, we'll make sure to put all Liz's stuff on our website, which is thedailynewsnetwork.com. If you like the episode, share the episode, and remember to always live with gratitude.